I've been called a lot of things in my life, most of them earned. Bastard, degenerate, hard case, sinner, but the one that cut deepest and came from my own blood. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of day where the sun feels like it's got a grudge. I was in my shop, wrench in hand, elbow deep in the guts of a '58 panhead I'd spent the last 3 months restoring. That bike was a piece of American history. Steel, sweat, and the heartbeat of a past that refuses to die quietly. My shop smelled like hot oil, dust, and memories I'd spent years trying to forget. Then Tyler walked in. My son. My disappointment. My biggest failure, wrapped up in the face of the boy I once carried on my shoulders. He was 25 and looked nothing like the kid I raised. At least for the handful of years I actually tried to be a father. His jaw was tight, his eyes restless, and he carried himself like he'd learned manhood from YouTube grifters and back-alley hustlers. He used to come around asking for help, advice, maybe a couple $100 to float him through whatever business opportunity he claimed to be chasing. But this time, he didn't ask for anything. He came to judge me. "Still here, huh?" he said, tapping the side of the panhead like he was checking if it was real. Still playing mechanic in a dead man's world. I didn't rise to it. You learn to control your trigger points after enough bar fights and midnight standoffs. "Good to see you too, kid," I muttered. He scoffed. "Yeah, sure, whatever." I knew then something was brewing behind those eyes, something bigger than attitude. I wiped my hands on an oil rag and leaned against the workbench waiting for the storm to break. When it did, it wasn't a scream or a punch or some dramatic confession. It was a sentence, a casual one, said like it meant nothing at all. "You're just an useless old biker refusing to accept you're done." Useless? Old? Biker? Funny how 3 simple words can gut a man deeper than a knife. I stood there, feeling the weight of every mile I'd ever ridden, every fight I'd ever survived, every brother I'd buried. And my son, my own damn flesh and blood, looked at me like I was a rusted relic taking up space. He turned his back as if the conversation was over, as if he'd delivered his sermon and was ready to walk off into whatever lie he was living next. "Tyler," I called out, "if you came here to hurt me, congratulations. You did it. Now what the hell do you really want?" But he never answered. He just walked out the door, leaving me in a silence that felt heavier than any chains the Iron Sovereigns ever threw on me. The next morning started wrong. You know that feeling you get when something inside the world has shifted just a couple degrees off its axis? When the air tastes different? When your stomach already knows the truth before your mind catches up? Yeah, that was me, stepping into my showroom and finding emptiness. Not the usual early morning stillness. Not the routine hush before a day of grease and sweat. No, this was absence. A hole carved out of my life. Every goddamn bike, 12 machines worth $3 million collectively, was gone. My 48 Hydra Glide, my Mint 69 Electroglide, my custom builds, hours of labor, scars on my knuckles, nights spent alone with only engines for company. Gone. But the part that truly twisted a knife right between my ribs was the way they left. No broken locks, no shattered windows. Someone used keys. Someone who knew the security codes. Someone who knew exactly when I'd be asleep and how deep. And on the concrete floor, fresh tire marks. My heart sank, not with rage, not yet, but with a bitter, metallic understanding. Tyler hadn't just come to hurt me. He came to rob me blind. At first, I denied it. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, some sliver of grace I hadn't offered anyone else in decades. But then I checked the camera system, and what I saw made my blood freeze. Tyler, my son, walking the line of Harleys like a man strolling through a graveyard he planned to desecrate, smirking, confident, wearing a cut I didn't recognize, a new patch, something cheap and gaudy, definitely not Iron Sovereigns. And he wasn't alone. Behind him were 3 men wearing the emblem of a crew I hadn't dealt with in years, a rattlesnake coiled around a rusted gear, the Rust Vipers, a glorified street gang pretending to be a motorcycle brotherhood. I threw out their leader, Cade Mercer, back when he tried to crawl his way into the Sovereigns. Bad seed, no discipline, addicted to chaos. I should have broken his jaw back then when I had the chance, and now he had his hooks in my boy. Tyler stole my legacy, my brother's legacy, the history of every mile I rode to keep him fed, clothed, and alive. My hands didn't shake. They turned to stone. I walked to my own bike, a '94 Fat Boy with a blacked-out frame and chrome scars that matched my own, and fired it up. The rumble settled in my chest like a war drum. If the Vipers thought they could take from me without a reckoning, if Cade thought I'd let him turn my son against me, if Tyler thought I'd just stand still and watch my blood betray me, they had no idea who the hell they were dealing with. I might be an old biker, but I sure as hell wasn't useless, and I was coming for what was mine, starting with my son. I hit the highway before dawn, The kind of hour where the world still feels half-formed. Just shadows, headlights, and the low hum of engines that never quite sleep. My fat boy growled beneath me like an old warhound eager to bite again. The air was cold, sharp, the kind that cuts the fog off your mind and leaves only what matters. A stolen legacy, a son poisoned by wolves, and a trail that reeked of betrayal. I followed the tire tracks out of my property onto the frontage road, then toward the desert stretch that leads east into the Badlands. The asphalt still held warmth from yesterday's sun, and every mile felt like it dragged another memory to the surface. Memories of Tyler as a kid, small hands gripping my fingers like he thought I'd disappear if he let go. Funny how life flips the script. Now he was the one who disappeared, and I was left gripping the ghost of who he used to be. The Sovereigns would have helped me. Hell, they would have burned half the state down to get those Harleys back. But I didn't call them. This wasn't club business. This was blood business. And blood, even when it breaks you, is something a man should handle himself. After about an hour, I reached the first place I knew the Vipers might have passed through. The Iron Rabbit, a dive bar tucked between a junkyard and a scrapyard, run by a man named Booker Dale. Booker once owed me a life, literally. Pulled him out of a burning pickup that he'd crashed into a fuel tank while drunk off rot-gut whiskey back in '98. He never forgot it. When I parked outside, the ground was scattered with cigarette butts, broken bottles, and the usual regrets men try to drink away. The morning sun hadn't fully cleared the horizon, but the bar lights were still flickering, like they weren't sure whether to wake up or die. Booker was wiping down the counter when I stepped inside. He paused when he saw me, eyes narrowing like he was trying to figure out which version of me had walked through his door, the man or the storm. "Rex Dalton," he muttered. "Ain't seen you in a long damn time." "Life gets in the way," I said. "Or maybe we let it." He snorted. "You look like you're riding with heat behind you." Something like that. He studied my face, then tilted his chin. "What do you need?" 3 men, maybe 4. Riding my bikes, Harleys, rare ones. You'd have heard the engines. He didn't answer, not at first. But I saw the hesitation, the kind that only shows up when a man decides whether the truth is worth the trouble. "Rex, you sure you want to chase this?" he asked quietly. "My son took them," I said. "With the Vipers?" Booker's jaw tightened. "Then you're heading into a nest you don't walk out of clean." "I'm not looking to walk out clean." He sighed long and deep, the kind of breath a man takes when he's about to betray his own survival instinct. "They passed through 2 hours ago. Your panhead was leading the pack. I'd know that bike anywhere. She sings like a pissed-off angel. They're headed toward Black Mesa." Black Mesa, Viper territory, or what they claimed was theirs. It used to be open land, but after Cade Mercer got kicked out of the Sovereigns for dealing fentanyl under our nose, he slithered his way into the desert and built himself a kingdom made of scavenged parts and addicts with more loyalty to pills than to purpose. "Cade was with them?" I asked. "Yeah," Booker said. "And your boy. He looked proud. Or scared. Hard to tell the difference these days." I swallowed the ache rising in my throat. Pride and fear, they looked damn near identical from certain angles. "Appreciate it," I muttered, dropping a folded 50 on the bar. Booker pushed it back. "Man saved my life once," he said. "This one's on me." I nodded, turned, and walked out before the weight of gratitude slowed me down. The road to Black Mesa is a graveyard of broken dreams, abandoned stations, dead motels, shredded billboards that look like they've been clawed apart by the wind. It's the kind of place where people disappear on purpose. Halfway there, I stopped at a small outpost, basically a glorified shack selling cigarettes, beef jerky, and lies. The owner, a weasel-faced broker named Milo Crane, made his living as an information leech. The kind of guy who knows exactly when to talk and exactly when to pretend he knows nothing. When I stepped inside, Milo's eyes flashed wide like a rat spotting a boot. "Rex, didn't expect to see you. Ever? Life's full of surprises," I said, grabbing him by the shirt and pinning him against his own counter. "Let's skip the part where you pretend you don't know why I'm here." Listen, I don't... I tightened my grip. "Milo, 3 seconds." "1. He cracked immediately. Okay. They came through. Your kid, he was with them, looked jittery, like he was in over his head but pretending not to be. What did Cade want with him?" Milo swallowed. "He's recruiting, trying to build the Vipers into something bigger. Claims he's starting some new era, young blood, fresh muscle, and using your bikes as bargaining chips. They're selling half and keeping half." My pulse went cold, and selling my history, my life's work, piece by piece. "What does Tyler think he's getting in return?" I asked. Respect, Milo said. A place in the world. Something he thinks you never gave him. I let go of Milo, disgust knotting my stomach. Tyler wasn't stupid, but he was lost. Lost in a way only men with father wounds understand. Cade knew exactly how to exploit that. He always did. Where are they now? I demanded. Heading to the quarry outside Black Mesa. Cade's been using it as a meetup point with buyers. Good. That gave me a shot. I stepped outside, lit a cigarette, and stared at the horizon. Red dust swirling like hell was breathing up from the ground. The desert wind carried the faint echo of engines far off in the distance. My bikes, his lies, our unfinished story. As I exhaled, something burned in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something deeper. A truth I'd avoided for years. I wasn't just chasing stolen motorcycles. I was chasing the wreckage of my own failures. And if I wanted to save the last piece of my bloodline, I'd have to wade through the fire I helped create. I climbed back onto my fat boy, tightened my gloves, and throttled hard. The desert swallowed me whole as I rode toward the man who stole my son. And the son who didn't know yet that I'd walk into hell to bring him back. By the time I reached the outskirts of Black Mesa, the sun was sinking into the desert like a dying ember, bleeding orange across the sky. The quarry lay ahead, an old excavation site carved into the earth decades ago, now abandoned except for whatever ghosts and criminals decided to claim it as home. The place looked like a scar, deep, jagged, and never healed. I parked my fat boy behind a ridge of rock and killed the engine. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. All I could hear was the ticking of cooling metal and the distant rumble of engines coming from the pit below. My heartbeat sped up with every familiar growl echoing through the canyon. I slid down the rocky slope, careful not to send gravel skittering. The last thing I needed was to announce myself. The Vipers weren't the kind of crew to give warnings. They were jump first, shoot second, think never. And at the center of that stupidity was Cade Mercer, snake charmer, wannabe warlord, and a traitor carved from rotten bone. As I approached the rim of the quarry, voices drifted upward, shouting, laughing, bragging. I edged forward until I had a clear view of the pit. There they were. At least a dozen Vipers circled around a makeshift camp, rusted trailers, drug tables, a fire pit belching thick smoke. My Harleys were lined up like trophies, engines still warm, chrome catching the dying light, and standing right beside them, Tyler. My son had Cade's patch draped across his shoulders, cheap leather, bright colors, loud enough to impress the kind of boy who didn't understand what real brotherhood cost. He looked thinner than I remembered, jaw clenched, arms stiff like a man trying to prove he wasn't scared. But he was. I could see it in the way his eyes darted, in how he flinched when someone laughed too loud, in the way he kept touching the knife at his hip, not drawing it, just checking to see if it was still there. Then Cade appeared from one of the trailers, swaggering like a peacock dipped in motor oil. Same smug grin, same dead eyes. If the devil ever needed a hype man, he'd pick Cade. He strutted over to Tyler, clapped him on the back, and said something I couldn't hear. But Tyler's expression cracked just enough. Shame, confusion, maybe regret before he forced the bravado back onto his face. That was enough for me. I stepped into the open. The first man to notice me froze mid-sentence. His cigarette dropped from his lips. Two others turned, eyes going wide like they'd just seen a ghost crawl out of the earth. And maybe they had. "Evening, boys," I said, voice steady as a steel barrel. Heard somebody misplaced a few of my bikes. Silence hit the quarry like a hammer. Cade was the last to turn around. When he did, his grin stretched slow and cruel. Well, he drawled. "If it ain't the old sovereign's reject, didn't think you had the stones to come alone." "I brought enough," I said. My hand rested casually near my jacket, close enough to the pistol tucked inside, but not threatening enough to trigger panic. I didn't want to shoot out. Not yet. Not with Tyler standing in the middle of them like a lamb wearing wolf skins. Tyler stepped forward, expression twisted between anger and something softer he didn't want anyone to see. "You shouldn't be here, Dad." Dad. Funny how a word can both warm your chest and break it. "I'm here for what's mine," I said. "Starting with those bikes, and maybe with you." His eyes flashed. "I'm not yours to take." Cade chuckled. "Listen to the kid, Rex. He's got himself a new family now." I looked at Cade, then at the patch he'd given my son. "That ain't family. That's bait." A murmur rippled through the Vipers. Some smirked. Some stiffened. Cade bristled. "Careful what you call my men," he said. "I wouldn't if they acted like men," I shot back. But all I see are scared boys hiding behind loud jackets. A few reached for their guns. Tyler's voice cracked through the tension. "Stop! Everyone, just stop!" He stepped between us, breath shaky but defiant. "You don't get to come here and talk down to me," he said. "You don't get to show up after years and play father." My throat tightened, but I kept my face stone still. You think that's why I'm here? I said quietly. To play anything? No, I'm here because you crossed a line even I didn't think you'd cross. His jaw trembled, the truth hitting him harder than my words. I didn't steal them, he muttered. I borrowed them. Cade laughed so loud it echoed off the quarry walls. Borrowed? Kid? You delivered the damn bikes. Don't pretend you're noble now. Tyler's head snapped toward him, eyes wide. You said we'd use them for leverage, not sell them. Cade shrugged. Plans change. And there it was, the knife twisting in my son's gut, the betrayal sinking in, the realization that he was just a pawn on a chessboard Cade barely knew how to play. I stepped closer, slow and steady. Tyler, I said, voice low, look at me. He didn't want to, but he did. And in his eyes I saw it. The scared boy who used to wait on the porch for me to come home, the one I left waiting too many times. You think I wanted a son who rode in my shadow? I whispered. But the truth is, I wanted you to ride beside me. You're the one who walked away before you ever tried. His breath hitched. Cade rolled his eyes. Jesus, the emotional crap. Enough of this. He snapped his fingers. Boys, grab Rex. We're done playing nice. That's when everything snapped. About 6 Vipers moved in, fast but sloppy. I drew my pistol in one fluid motion, firing a warning shot into the ground. Next one's a kneecap, I growled. They froze. Cade raised his own gun, pointing it right at my chest. And then Tyler moved, not toward me, not toward Cade, but toward the middle, arms out, voice cracking like a man pulled in two. Stop! All of you! This isn't what I wanted, Cade sneered. Shut up, kid. You wanted respect? Earn it? Shoot him? My blood turned to ice. Tyler stared at the gun handed to him, small, black, deadly. His hand shook, his throat bobbed, his feet didn't move. I can't, he whispered. Cade snapped. You're useless without me. Funny. That word again. He raised his gun to Tyler's head. That was all I needed. My body moved faster than my thoughts. My pistol leveled. My vision tunneled into a single burning point. Tyler wasn't the traitor. He was the hostage. And Cade Mercer had just declared war on the last thing in my life worth bleeding for. For a split second, the world held its breath. Cade's gun pressed to Tyler's temple. My pistol aimed square at Cade's skull. The Vipers frozen on instinct, hands near their holsters but too scared to commit. The desert wind screamed across the quarry, tossing sand through the air like nature was trying to erase us before history chose a side. Then Cade made his mistake. He smirked. Rex, he said, you can't kill me. You've got too much daddy guilt weighing down your trigger finger. He had no idea how wrong he was. I'm done with guilt, I said. Then I fired. The bullet punched through Cade's shoulder. Not the kill shot he deserved, but enough to send him spinning away from my son. Tyler staggered back as Cade yelped, clutching the wound. Shock painted across his face like a man who'd been convinced of his own immortality. The quarry erupted. Vipers lunged, guns drawn, shouting over one another, hungry for blood. I didn't wait. I shoved Tyler behind a rock outcropping and returned fire. Each shot measured, deliberate. Years of muscle memory took over, breath steady, recoil predictable, eyes clear. 3 men rushed from the left. I dove, rolled, and dropped 2 before the third even understood he was already dead. Tyler scrambled beside me, breathing like a cornered animal. Dad, this wasn't... Save it, I growled. Right now, you shoot or you run. But you don't freeze. His eyes darted, panicked. I know. I grabbed his wrist, forcing his trembling grip steady on the pistol he'd thrown aside earlier. But they won't hesitate. And I won't die for you to learn that too late. Something inside him hardened. Not courage, just the first flicker of self-preservation. He nodded. Gunfire cracked across the pit like fireworks for the damned. Gravel exploded around us. A bullet grazed my arm, hot and stinging. Another sparked off the rock near Tyler's head, and he flinched but didn't curl up. Not this time. Progress. We moved low across the quarry, using shadows and broken machinery as cover. I shot out a floodlight, plunging the camp into deeper darkness. The Vipers panicked. Bad shooters crave visibility, and I'd just robbed them of their training wheels. Cade crawled behind a rusted trailer, yelling orders nobody listened to. His empire was crumbling. His men were dying, and he knew it. By the time the firefight thinned, only 3 Vipers remained upright. One charged us with a crowbar. Tyler fired first, the shot wild, but lucky enough to hit the man in the leg. He collapsed, screaming. Tyler stared at the gun in his hands like it had bitten him. You did what you had to, I said. He shook his head. I didn't want to. Good means you're not them. The last 2 Vipers fled on foot, dropping weapons, stumbling into the desert night. Cowards live longer than fools, I suppose. Finally, it was just us and Cade. He staggered out from behind the trailer, bleeding, wild-eyed, gun dangling from his hand. You two? He hissed, voice cracking with fury. You think you can just walk out of here? I aimed my pistol at him. Not think, I said. No. He laughed, jagged, broken. You ruined everything, Rex. I had plans. I had the kid. He was going to be my leverage, my legacy. Then you picked the wrong boy, I said. He raised his gun. I pulled the trigger first. The shot hit center mass. Cade dropped like a puppet with its strings cut. Tyler gasped, staring at the body. Is he... Done, I said. Finally. Silence washed over the quarry. The gunpowder haze settled. The desert wind returned, colder now, brushing over us like a reminder that death is just another part of the landscape out here. Tyler sank onto a rock, face pale, hands shaking violently. I didn't know he'd turn on me, he whispered. I thought joining them would make me worth something. You were worth something before, I said. You just didn't believe it. He looked up, tears smearing the dirt on his face. I didn't want to be you. A punch to the gut would have hurt less. I sat beside him. You were never supposed to be me. You were supposed to be better, but you got lost. And I wasn't around to keep you on the road. His voice cracked. I screwed everything up. Yeah, I said. Welcome to being human. He almost laughed. Almost. We got up together. The Harleys gleamed in the moonlight as if waiting for us. Silent witnesses to our war, our sins, and whatever redemption we could scrape from the ashes. Help me prep the bikes, I said. We're taking them home. Tyler hesitated. Home? Yeah, I said. For now. We worked in silence, the kind that isn't empty but healing, loading the bikes, checking the engines, wiping the dust off chrome like we were cleansing more than machines. When my fat boy rumbled to life and Tyler climbed onto a recovered 69 Electroglide, I saw it, the spark he used to have as a kid when he rode on the back and pretended he was steering. We rode out of the quarry side by side, father and son, survivors, damaged goods with engines for hearts. Halfway to town, Tyler spoke through the noise of the road. Dad, what happens now? I didn't answer right away. The night stretched open in front of us, full of stars, full of miles, full of choices. Finally, I said, we rebuild what we can, and what we can't, we leave behind. He nodded. Maybe he understood. Maybe he didn't. But for the first time in years, he stayed close. He rode beside me, not behind, not ahead, just beside. And for a man like me, that was enough.